I mean, truthfully, it's quite a stroke of luck to just find one dumped out in the wastes, to be in exactly the right time, at exactly the right moment. One might suggest that you were part of a scheme, a plan to steal biotech proprietary technology. I'm of course not accusing you of it, only suggesting to you that there are those that would question whether that was the case. Really? You think I stole it somehow? That I had some connection inside the walls to have an XPC drop to me? Lady, I wish I was that well connected. No, sorry to burst any of your conspiracy bubbles, but me finding the XPC was neither dumb luck nor simply being in the right place at the right time. At least not just for me. Fortunate, exceptionally so. A friend of mine happens to practice business and was monitoring haulers that exited the walls to perform dumps. She noticed one leaving at an awkward location at an unusual time and simply tracked it. That's how we found the location of the weaponry and the XPC itself, after which I claimed it as part of my deal in transporting and selling all the equipment off. That's all there is to it. There's no scheme or master plan. I didn't have somebody hardwire your system to dump valuable goods. I was just happy that valuable goods got dumped. Okay, I suppose that's an acceptable enough answer, at least for the time being. I suppose all that there is left is a few cognitive tests. I'm going to ask you some very simple things. A few tasks. Nothing that you'll have to leave or go anywhere for. They're simply to test your cognitive functions. The first test is a literacy test, and it's quite simple. I'm going to hand you a book. It's in my bag here, she said, pointing to a decent size carry case that she had slung over her shoulder. Your task is simple. I'm going to start a timer clock the moment you start reading. You have 5 minutes maximum, in which you are to read the maximum amount that you can within that time frame. It seems simple enough, doesn't it? Ugh, now I have to read a book. You know, you have some weird tests, lady. And once again, I'm starting to question whether I really want to work with somebody who tends to put people through weird tests. But fine, I'll play along. Give me your book, and I'll read. All right then, she said, reaching into her bag, placing her electronic clipboard on her lap for just a short time, at which point she pulled from the small bag a very thick book, along with an electronic stopwatch. Once you open the book, you will have 5 minutes, she said, handing the book forward. I took it in my grasp and read the cover. The title was Basics of Advanced Technology. It seemed to be an engineering book. I hope the subject matter isn't too difficult for you. No, engineering is actually right up my alley. In fact, it's one of the few things that I actually enjoy, so hopefully this'll be nice. For me, building things is part hobby and part necessity. But I do enjoy science, of all kinds. Anything that might spring to life new ideas. I do like to tinker after all. But I suppose we're more worried about this test right now, I said, opening the book up. And as I did, she clicked her little electronic stopwatch, and I began flipping through the pages, reading them one by one. At first, everything in the book seemed normal, containing descriptions of engineering and engineering practices, different types of machines and mechanisms. There were parts about materials as well as power outputs for different types of devices, measurements and tools that are needed to take and be used at different points. But then, things started to get weird. The further I got into it, the more I began to notice that things weren't quite right. The book would suddenly shift topic rapidly with no explanation, as if there were large chunks torn out of the story, as if it skipped over massive amounts of information, like there were pages torn from it. But all the pages were there. The book was in perfect condition, in even better condition than the books that I have at my place. Not a scratch, scuff, tear, fold, or even a bit of dust on it. And yet it was clear that large pieces of information were missing here. Finally, I closed the book. Lilith looked at me curiously. "I'm sorry, is something wrong? You do know you're still being timed." "Yeah, well, you can go ahead and stop your little watch there. I'm finished." She clicked the watch hesitantly. "I'm sorry, are you tired of the test?" "Yeah, I'm most definitely tired of the test. But that's not what I mean by finished. I mean I'm finished reading the book. I read it all. And let me tell you, lady, for trying to test my cognitive abilities, it kind of feels like you're insulting my intelligence. This book is garbage. I mean, everything starts out seeming normal, but then there are these huge chunks of information missing, and in multiple places at that. Eventually, the gaps become so large that the whole thing seems like nonsense, because you're lacking all the information that would let you understand it. I mean, I was able to fill in the gaps, but that's only because I'm smart. I know lots about engineering and things like that, so I knew what information was supposed to fill those gaps. But most people aren't as wise to engineering as me. This book would effectively ruin them on the topic. If they tried to build anything with it, it'd probably blow up in their face. But just for the sake of it, I went ahead and finished it anyways." "Are you certain? I mean, skimming isn't really reading." "Lady, I didn't skim anything. I read every word. And trust me, that was taxing." "So you read the entirety of that nearly 600-page book in just over 2 minutes. Do you expect me to believe that? I don't really care what you believe. But if you want me to drop some information on you, the first break in information is in chapter 12, when it skips from talking about the power outputs for accelerator engines, and then suddenly jumps to plasma-induced coil drives. There's also a jump in chapter 34, when it's talking about chemical reactions, and suddenly jumps to induction energy. The same story all throughout the book, chapter 55, chapter 68, again and again. And once again, it was all just extremely annoying to try to fill in the gaps on. "Holy crap, dude!" I hear Danny's voice call out from behind me. "Seriously? You read that entire book? Man, I need to get me a nanite brain," Danny said. "What are you talking about?" I replied angrily. "Nanites don't have anything to do with it. I just read the book, like I've read 1,000 books before it." "Whoa, hold the phone. You're telling me that you've always read like that? Like, even before the doc?" "Yeah, moron. That's how reading works. You pick up a book, you turn the pages, you eventually reach the end after all of the knowledge has poured into your head. Do you know some other way reading works? Dude, you realize that's not normal, right? What? I replied. I'm telling you, man, reading a book in 2 minutes, it's not normal. Most people take days to get through books like that. I'm telling you, it's freaky. It's like superhuman. Really? I replied. And just then it hit me. I had never really bothered reading a book in front of anyone, nor had I ever really seen anyone else reading books. Books weren't really a common thing in the Yellow District. Once again, they were a valuable commodity, so I never really had anyone else to compare how fast I was reading to. I just assumed everyone could read that fast. Is it really that weird?